Perfect. Hare Krishna and welcome, welcome, welcome. This is See Through. It is a podcast with me, Achyuta Gopi, and we are working our way through all of the Vedic literatures that we can assemble in a short amount of time, and we are gaining some transparency and some clarity through those scriptures to realize and remember that Shastra, or sacred spiritual texts, are always on our side. Sometimes we can feel a little bit intimidated by these texts, like they're calling me out, they're shining a light on the fact that I'm not doing the proper things, but actually Shastra is there to invigorate and encourage us, to give us a life, to give us a much needed boost of energy when we need it. So Shastra is always there on our side. Shastra is not actually working against us. And that has been one of the best things to meditate on while reading through different literatures or doing any kind of research, to try and remember that the reason that all of these Shastras are there, the core reason and the essence, is to give us solace, comfort, and encouragement. So when we read things, I like to, go over the more difficult parts, because this is where it's much more difficult to see that Shastra is on our side, that our spiritual superheroes could actually be on our side, that they could actually be working for us and not just calling us out. So today, we'll be continuing with our Krishna book exploration. And we were in Krishna book chapter 21. So this is the Gopis attracted by the flute. And this is a favorite chapter of mine, just because I feel as though there's such poetry that Srila Prabhupada has expressed. There is such love in all of these lines of Krishna book. So this is such a wonderful and beautiful chapter to be reading during this beautiful and holy month of Purushottam Mas. So welcome to everybody. Welcome to our regulars. I see Ashi, I see you're here. Thank you for being here. We have Baldevi in the Zoom room in my Patreon chat. So thank you for being here. We also have others that are now entering. So come in as you will. And in this sacred month of Purushottam, we'll be reciting a very special verse, but also it is encouraged that you offer a diya or a little ghee lamp. So if you don't have one, that's perfectly fine. Send in those ghee lamp emojis. We have diya emojis now, thanks to Diwali. So thank you very much. Send in those diya emojis. It still counts. We'll be offering it to our dearest beloved Sri Krishna. So we are starting with a verse from a previous age. Actually, first we're going to start with a little Mangalacharana. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Krishna book ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Shri Purushottam Mas ki jai. So, starting from this verse from a previous age, This is a verse that is very important for the month of Purushottam. It is stated that by chanting this mantra with devotion during Purushottam month, one will attain Sri Purushottam himself. One should devote the Purushottam month to constantly meditating on the two-armed form of Sri Krishna, who has the complexion of a new monsoon rain cloud, who plays the flute, who wears a yellow silk dhoti, and who is accompanied by Srimati Radharani. Here is our verse. Govardhana Dharam Vande Gopalam Goparupinam Gokulotsavam Ishanam Govindam Gopika Priyam. I worship Gopal, the lifter of Govardhan, who has the form of a cowherd boy. He is the festival of Gokula and the supreme controller of all. He is Govinda and the beloved of the Gopis, the cowherd maidens of Sri Vrindavandam. So this is our wonderful, wonderful verse for the month of Purushottam. And like I said, please send in those Diya emojis. We are accepting them. It is a wonderful time to be together. It is the most wonderful time for all of us to have this opportunity to be with one another. And we are excited and eager and ready to journey into Krishna book. I was just kind of reflecting, and this chapter, it gives a glimpse of what all of the Brijbasis are seeing. How are they viewing Krishna? And what is this wonderful benediction that we have of being able to gain some sight into Krishna through the ears, right? Because of course this is going in through the ears. Our Krishna, it is said that he does not need to perform one activity through one particular sense. So he can taste through his eyes, as we see when he is eating. He can feel with any of his other senses, and he can embrace us through his holy name. Krishna is so perfect and complete that he can perform any function with any and all of his senses. This is our benediction. So as part and parcel of Krishna, sometimes we are able to manifest some of the wonderful glories of Sri Krishna. And in this way, we can, in some ways, we can see Krishna through our ears, through hearing Bhagavatam, through hearing Krishna book, which is a summary study of Bhagavatam. So this is how we can get in contact with Krishna, just as we are right now. And in that regard, I kind of want to begin with a beautiful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this wonderful verse comes from Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 44. And so this is the Rudra Gita, the song sung by Lord Shiva. And because today is Somvar, and Lord Shiva is the Lord of the moon, he is known as Somnath, and he's the Lord of Mondays. Monday is dedicated to Lord Shiva. And it's during a kind of extended Shravan Mas. It is very, very wonderful to be able to chant this one verse from the chapter of Bhagavatam, dedicated to singing the song of Lord Shiva. Darshanam no didrikshunam dehi bhagavat archidam rupam priyatamam swanam sarvendriya gunanjanam. Lord Shiva prays, my dear Lord, I wish to see you exactly in the form that your very dear devotees worship. You have many other forms, but I wish to see your form that is especially liked by the devotees. Please be merciful upon me and show me that form, for only that form worshipped by the devotees can perfectly satisfy all the demands of the senses. This is Lord Shiva speaking. What does Lord Shiva wish for? In a month where this month can fulfill all desires, any and all desires. What does Lord Shiva pray for? Simply to have the benediction of seeing the form that is held dear by the devotees. This two-armed form of Sri Krishna is so dear to the devotees. We are going to see how dear that form is to the Brijabasis, how dear this form is to the Gopis of Vrindavan. Not just the Gopis, the animals, the plants, the trees, the creepers, the stones, everything in Vrindavan is holding this form dear to its heart. And Lord Shiva just hopes to get the darshan of this form. This is his only wish and benediction. That's it. So we can take it on the advice of Lord Shiva that this is something worth wishing for. We are about to get a particular vision through the ears that is dear even to all of our Vaishnav heroes, our dear Vaishnav well-wishers. So chapter 21, the Gopis attracted by the flute. Krishna was very pleased with the atmosphere of the forest, where flowers bloomed and bees and drones hummed very jubilantly. While the birds, trees, and branches were all looking very happy, Krishna, tending the cows, accompanied by Sri Balaram and the cowherd boys, began to vibrate his transcendental flute. This particular chapter, I remember I would listen to the narration over and over again, and I would read it over and over again. And so this chapter has become so dear to me, and it has such a tone of Srila Prabhupada's narration. This is our founder Acharya. This is our spiritual grandfather. And here is where the poetry comes out. Delving deep into Sri Vrindavan Dham, can we imagine? He spent years there in Sri Vrindavan, in the temple of Shri Shri Radha Damodar, visiting the samadhis of the Goswamis, of all of our spiritual predecessors, and he would cry, simply hoping and praying to perfect the service that his own Guru Maharaj had given him. How many times have we felt a calling? And we sometimes feel, I'm not ready. I'm not qualified. I'm not this, that, or whatever else. Srila Prabhupada wonderfully accepted that feeling of not feeling qualified, not feeling ready. And so what did he do to make himself ready? He would cry and chant the holy names. He would pray for all of the conditioned souls. And then he would practicing lectures, speaking in English to Brijabasis who probably did not understand it. But he felt it was so important because he knew he would be preaching to those whose English was their first language, and he needed to be able to give them this message in the best way possible. Now, look at this poetry. Look at what all of the practice has culminated in such an offering. Krishna was very pleased with the atmosphere of the forest, where flowers bloomed and bees and drones hummed very jubilantly. It sounds beautiful even to say. Bees and drones hummed very jubilantly. You can hear the humming that is produced by simply the vibration of these words, and we can understand this is like the humming of the bees and the drones. While birds, trees, and branches were all looking very happy. Okay, I can understand where birds are looking happy, but the trees and the branches were also looking happy? Like, is this what Bob Ross was actually like tapping into? Okay, like painting like happy little trees, you know? Is this the essence? Was Bob Ross really tapping into a spiritual vision? This is Sri Vrindavan Dham, where everything is sentient, where everything is cognizant, conscious. And so all of the trees and branches were looking happily. Branches and trees with many, many eyes, like leaves, glancing upon what? The form of Sri Krishna Balaram, entering into their midst. Can we imagine how we would be staring at Krishna if he were to walk into our midst? We have so many deities. Can we perceive that they are looking back at us? When we enter into our home place of worship, even with pictures, Krishna can see you through a photo. That is not an obstacle for Krishna. So can we really perceive within the heart that not only am I seeing my Lord, but my Lord is looking at me, glancing over me? Sachinandan Maharaj says that there is a specific medicine held within the glance of Sri Krishna. And when he glances at us, he covers us with this medicine of his glance. We are suffering from so many afflictions, one of which, the keymost being like the existence within the material world, right? Like we're all burning up in the heat. Some of us literally, some of us figuratively, right? The whole, like this northern hemisphere right now, we are in a lot of heat. But Krishna's glance is cooling and soothing, like shade when we've been out in that heat, and then you get under the shade and the whole atmosphere changes, right? When you're in the shade, there's a breeze magically. You feel it, you smell it, you understand it. It is like entering into your very essence, your being. This is the glance of Shri Krishna. This is the mercy of the holy name. When we begin to even allow ourselves to dive in and chant the holy name, it is like the cooling shade when we are burning with that heat of material existence. All of us know what that is like. So now all of these trees and branches were looking happy because they were seeing Krishna tending the cows, accompanied by Sri Balaram and the cowherd boys, and he began to vibrate his transcendental flute. After hearing the vibration of the flute of Krishna, the Gopis in Vrindavan remembered him and began to talk amongst themselves about how nicely Krishna was playing his flute. When the Gopis were describing the sweet vibration of Krishna's flute, they also remembered their pastimes with him, and thus their minds became disturbed, and they were unable to describe completely the beautiful vibrations. While discussing the transcendental vibration, they remembered also how Krishna was dressed, decorated with a peacock feather on his head, just like a dancing actor, and with blue flowers pushed over his ears. Today, my Anantadev has pinkish flowers pushed over his ears, and yellow flowers brightly at the edges. I'll send darshan later. His garment glowed yellow gold, and he was garlanded with a Vaijayanti necklace. Dressed in such an attractive way, Krishna filled up the holes of his flute with the nectar emanating from his lips. So they remembered him, entering the forest of Vrindavan, which is always glorified by the footprints of Krishna and his companions. May all of our hearts become like this Vrindavan, glorified by the footprints of Krishna and his companions. Oh, when will Krishna place his lotus feet within our hearts? May the memories and the remembrance of the Gopis of Vrindavan, may they protect us all. And for all of us, may we hear the holy name, which is compared to the sound vibration of Krishna's flute in Kali Yuga. And may we remember our pastimes with our dearmost friend. Krishna was very expert in playing the flute, and the gopis were captivated by the sound vibration, which was not only attractive to them, but to all living creatures who heard it. One of the gopis told her friends, "The highest perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest and playing their flutes and tending the cows with their friends." Persons who are constantly engaged in the transcendental meditation of seeing Krishna internally and externally by thinking of him playing the flute and entering the Vrindavan forest have really attained the perfection of samadhi. And so I was saying, we can do this all the time. Internally, we can read these pastimes and hear these pastimes and see Krishna through the ears. And then externally, we can even see the form of the deity who is most often playing a flute. Samadhi or trance means absorption of all the activities of the senses on a particular object. And the gopis indicate that the pastimes of Krishna are the perfection of all meditation and samadhi. So friends, we are doing the best thing this day. Just gathering together, hearing these pastimes is the perfection of all meditation. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who is always absorbed in the thought of Krishna is the topmost of all yogis. Another gopi expressed her opinion that Krishna and Balaram, while tending the cows, appeared just like actors going to play on a dramatic stage. Krishna was dressed in glowing yellow garments of yellow, Balaram in blue, and they held new twigs of mango tree, peacock feathers, and bunches of flowers in their hands. Dressed with garlands of lotus flowers, they were sometimes singing very sweetly among their friends. Can we even begin to imagine what it would sound like when Krishna would sing? And then to think what it would sound like when Balaram would answer and sing in response. Can we imagine the wonderful deep voice? This is what the kirtan of Gaur-Nitai would sound like. Can we imagine Gauranga Mahaprabhu singing and Nityananda Prabhu answering in response? This is a kirtan that I would love to hear. As Lord Shiva has asked, I just wish to see that form that the devotees hold most dear. I wish to hear the kirtan of our Prem Avatar, our Prem Purushottam, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Just once, if I could hear the kirtan that the devotees hold most dear. One gopi told her friend, "How is it that Krishna and Balaram are looking so beautiful?" Have you ever done that? Have you ever seen the deities and thought like, I don't understand how you look so beautiful this day? And sometimes I'm seeing the deities every day. I really love filling up my social media feeds with darshans, right? So I keep following all of these different darshan pages, and it might seem like, isn't this the same darshan every day? You know, I'm getting like 3-4 different perspectives of Radharaman, and every day I am baffled. How do you look so sweet and so adorable? How do you look so handsome? Look, it's like every day, oh look, but his dhoti is flared this way this day. And then his dhoti is flared another way another day. And then his chutters are placed a different way this next day. And then look at these necklaces this day. Some days they're holding ropes. Some days they're holding flowers. Some days they're holding, you see little cows placed around the altar. Some days there are deer. Some places they have bunnies. You know, some days in some places they have peacocks, and some days in some places there are monkeys swinging from branches, and we're looking at, and then just, how is it? I don't understand how they look so incredibly beautiful. And from day to day, it's completely different. And the beauty never decreases. And there is always something amazing to find in these darshans. This is the perfection of our lives. We could spend hours gazing at the deities. I was hearing about the many different ways that Krishna uses his walking stick. He uses it as support. He uses it to urge his cows along. He uses it to sometimes lovingly poke his cowherd boyfriends. And then he also uses it to jump over puddles. Can we imagine Krishna using like his stick as a little pole vault, jumping over puddles through Vrindavan, using it lovingly to herd his cows? I said, I will never look at walking sticks the same when I see Krishna having them. And then I went to the Bhakti Center, and Murlidhar had such a beautiful long walking stick. And I was remembering, oh Murlidhar, just once, what if we see you moving and you're jumping over puddles, leaning over it as you negotiate taxes from the Gopis. And it was so lovingly placed, so beautiful, so long. It is said that Krishna likes to place his buffalo horn on his left side. And indeed, I saw it that day. Krishna's buffalo horn was placed on Murlidhar's left side. And I said, wow, it's real. It's all real. And his buffalo horn produces 3 sounds: a low sound, a high sound, and a loud sound. And it is said that these 3 sounds are reproduced when the Brahmins chant the Vedic mantras: low, high, and very loud. This is the sound of Krishna's buffalo horn. And just as the flute captures the attention of the Gopis, Krishna's buffalo horn attracts the attention of the Gopas, all of the cowherd boys. And just as the Gopis stop everything they're doing, and it seems as though their minds are captivated, they can't concentrate on dressing, thinking, doing anything other than running to Krishna when they hear the flute, the Gopas, when they hear the buffalo horn of Shri Krishna, the buffalo horn whose name is Mandra Ghosh. This buffalo horn, who in a very interesting tale, he got from Lord Shiva. When the Gopas hear this buffalo horn, this Mandra Ghosh, they stop everything they're doing. They can't concentrate. They run to Krishna. And the cows run to Krishna at full speed, forgetting all else. This is the darshan of Krishna. And so we can understand that as the Gopis were hearing the flute vibration of Krishna, hearing this buffalo horn, hearing all of these activities of Krishna, their minds were carried away, and ultimately, immediately, they were remembering their pastimes with Krishna. Imagine if we would hear kirtan and we remember our pastimes. I remember the day that I heard this kirtan. Sometimes I look at flower outfits and I remember the day making those flower outfits. I remember that day. I remember the anxiety that I was in, wondering, am I going to finish on time? I remember the days. I remember the day, and sometimes I'll look at flower outfits and will remember the day. I remember that day well because we had to turn on all of the ACs in order to keep the flowers fresh as we were making this flower outfit so that it would be nice for Krishna to wear. And so all of us were freezing cold and our hands were stuck together with glue and all of these things. And all you could do was smell glue and feel cold. But I remember it now fondly. Those were the pastimes that I was having with my Krishna. Sometimes I will remember the day of the week. It will be a Saturday, and I would think, I remember when I would cook for Radha Govinda on a Saturday. And I remember on those days when we would be cooking and we would be using various utensils as a top for a pot. And as I pulled away one of the pot tops, because I didn't have the potency of Mother Yashoda, everything is alive in Vrindavan. And so when she would cook, she would simply call out to the different items, are you ready? And sometimes they would respond, not yet. Sometimes they would respond, we are ready now. And so because I didn't have that, I have to constantly check on it. And as I was pulling back a pot top, the steam had built up so much that it escaped and burned my hand. But now, these are the wounds of love. These are pastime remembrances. These are the things that I look at on my hand that still bears a little bit of a dark mark in some spaces. And I remember this is where I was cooking for my Govinda. Sometimes I look at my bangles, which still have dried glue on them from making years of flower outfits, and I remember this is from my Govinda. These are the moments of loving pastimes with our dear beloved lords. Friends, don't take this for granted. If you are cooking for Krishna, if you're doing for Krishna and you incur an injury, remember that scar. How did we get that scar? I was cooking for Krishna. Sometimes I'll look and there are calluses on my fingers, but those are the calluses I get from kirtan, from playing kartals for years on end. I'll look at there's a certain muscle in my forearm, but that's the muscle I got from playing harmonium. That is the pumping arm for the harmonium. And so that is the muscle that is built up only on one arm from playing harmonium. These are the pastimes that Krishna is having with us every day. Every day. Sometimes we'll build up a callus from writing. And we can think, this is the callus I built up writing for Krishna. These are the remembrances that Krishna has left on my body. It's getting a little intimate now, but stay with me, okay? I believe we're all of the same mind. I've prepped us all. But Krishna is leaving the marks of his love and affection on us. Can we see it like that? Just the same way as Krishna was thinking, I am now adorned by the wounds caused by the arrows of Bhishma. This is our Krishna. This is remembrance. I sometimes get really frustrated with myself because I get easily sidetracked and often will forget many things. But Krishna I remember. Pastimes I'll remember. Those details I remember. And so now, cool. I'm no longer upset with myself about that. Like, whatever, I'll forget everything else. I'll forget to close kitchen cabinets and all the things, and I'll have to remember, like, I'll have to remind myself 3 times, like, did I turn off the oven or no? And sometimes I used to get frustrated, but, forget it. Who cares? Like, who cares if I forget or if I have to go check if I turned off the oven 3 times? It doesn't matter, but I remember the pastimes of Krishna. That is the essence of all remembrance. Chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita, which is the yoga of the Supreme Person, right? This Purushottam Yoga, which is great for Purushottam Mas. 15:15. My Krishna is the source of all remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, he is only to be known. He is the compiler of the Vedanta and the knower of the Vedas. He is the essence of all Vedic scripture. Why would we even read and remember it? To find Krishna somewhere in there. He is the source of all this remembrance. So he's given some true remembrance. If we can just remember these pastimes, if we can remember our service, that's the source of all remembrance. This is the real reason for remembrance. So, the gopis are wondering, how is it that they're looking so beautiful? Another gopi said, my dear friend, we cannot even think of his bamboo flute. What sort of pious activities did it execute so that it is now enjoying the nectar of the lips of Krishna? Krishna sometimes kisses the gopis. Therefore, the transcendental nectar of his lips is available only to them, and his lips are considered their property. Therefore, the gopis asked, how is it possible that the flute, which is nothing but a bamboo rod, is always engaged in enjoying the nectar from Krishna's lips? Because the flute is engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord, the mother and father of the flute must be happy. Sometimes they also tease Krishna. They say the flute is categorically male. And so just as you have offered the nectar of your lips to the gopis, similarly you're offering the nectar of your lips to this male bamboo flute? What kind of activity is this, Krishna? And so sometimes they'll tease him. But just see how Krishna treats his devotees. The nectar of the lips of Krishna is available to everyone. Now, how is that possible, right? Like, are we the flute? No, we're not quite that fortunate. Are we even his conch shell, Panchajanya? Still not quite that fortunate. Are we the gopis? Not there yet. And yet, and still, Srila Prabhupada promises us that that same nectar is available to all of us. Srila Prabhupada says in Srimad Bhagavatam that reading the words spoken by Sri Krishna within Bhagavatam, within Krishna book, within Bhagavad Gita, is non-different than the lip touch of Krishna that he offers to his dear beloveds. Oh ho ho, friends! If you needed any incentive to like read Bhagavatam or read Bhagavad Gita or read Krishna book, this is it. Like, I don't know anybody who, okay, there may be some people who might feel like, I don't know if I want to kiss Krishna. That is a great misfortune, right? Like, get into your mindset. Get devotional enough that you want to kiss God, because we worship a God who will kiss you back, right? And how is that possible? How do we find true love's kiss in this like nightmarish of a curse that we are living in this material existence? Seek shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is non-different than the lip touch of Sri Krishna. Srila Prabhupada promises this same thing that the gopis are saying. This bamboo flute has gotten the nectar, which is our property. It belongs to us, but somehow Krishna has given it. The mother and the father of the flute must be so happy. This flute has perfected its life. If we just read Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna book and Bhagavad Gita, we have perfected our lives in the same way. Can we even dare to believe it? Do we dare to hope? Because it's true. It's promised. It's there. So, the lakes and the rivers are considered to be the mothers of the trees, because the trees live simply by drinking water. So the waters of the lakes and rivers of Vrindavan were full of happy lotus flowers. There goes again, Bob Ross. Because the waters were thinking, how is it our son, the bamboo rod, is enjoying the nectar of Krishna's lips? The bamboo trees standing by the banks of the rivers and the lakes were also happy to see their descendant so engaged in the service of the Lord, just as persons who are advanced in knowledge take pleasure to see their descendants engaged in the service of the Lord. These trees were overwhelmed with joy and were incessantly yielding honey, which flowed from the beehives hanging on the branches. So you are making everyone you know proud right in this moment. Whether you have a particular guru or not, your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is so proud and happy seeing us taking this moment to engage in the devotional service of hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Just think how proud Srila Prabhupada is. How proud he must be feeling, knowing that his sacrifice, his efforts are not going in vain. Knowing that he toiled so hard to translate, to give us a summary study of the 10th canto, knowing he would not be able to completely translate verse by verse. And so he says, let me stop everything and give you a complete summary of the 10th canto. It is so important. And knowing that his sacrifices have not gone in vain, his efforts are not just being wasted. We are taking advantage of those efforts just by coming together on a Monday and reading Krishna book together. At this most auspicious time, in the most auspicious place, during the most auspicious month, Srila Prabhupada must be feeling so happy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's efforts ki jai. Glory, glory to the efforts of our supreme grandfather. Sometimes the gopis spoke thus to their friends about Krishna. Dear friends, our Vrindavan is proclaiming the glories of this entire earth because this planet is glorified by the lotus footprints of the son of Devaki. Now, why would they describe Krishna as the son of Devaki? Devaki's been in Mathura in a jail cell. And furthermore, all of the gopis of Vrindavan, do they see Krishna as the son of Devaki? No. They see Krishna as the son of Yashoda. He is Yashoda Nandan. But Devaki Nandan, why? Yashoda Rani was nicknamed Devaki. And so Devaki and Yashoda were actually friends because they had similar nicknames. And so they entered into a friendly agreement and a friendship based on the fact that, oh, my name is Devaki. Oh, I also have that name. And so Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj were friends, and Devaki and Yashoda were also friends. And so Yashoda has this nickname, Devaki. And so when the gopis are referring to Krishna as the son of Devaki, they still also refer to Yashoda. They are not thinking of Devaki and Mathura. They're thinking of the Devaki that they know, Yashoda Rani. Besides that, when Govinda plays his flute, you know, it's closest, easiest, quickest way to my heart. Just whatever you do, put Govinda in there and I'm yours. When Govinda plays his flute, the peacocks immediately become mad. When all the animals and trees and plants, either on the top of Govardhan Hill or in the valley, see the dancing of the peacock, they all stand still and listen to the transcendental sound of the flute with great attention. We think that this boon is not possible or available on any other planet. Although the gopis were village cowherd women and girls, they had knowledge of Krishna, which just goes to show that anyone can have knowledge of Krishna. Similarly, one can learn the highest truths simply by hearing the Vedas from authoritative sources. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, just see the deer. Although they are dumb animals, or non-speaking, they have approached the son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna. Not only are they attracted by the dress of Krishna and Balaram, but as soon as they hear the playing of the flute, the deer, along with their husbands, offer respectful obeisances unto the Lord by looking at him with great affection." Sachinandan Maharaj once gave a Kartik meditation saying, we can become like the deer of Vrindavan. If we are pujaris, if we are offering things to the deities, what can we offer Krishna that he does not already have? What can we offer Krishna in the way of opulence to the Supreme Person who obtains and is the source of all opulence? But he says, we can offer him glances of affection. We can look at him lovingly. And as we offer different articles of worship, this is what we're really giving, our affectionate glances, the love within our hearts. We are giving him our everything, our heart and soul, just through the medium of the eyes. The gopis were envious of the deer because the deer were able to offer their service to Krishna along with their husbands. The gopis thought themselves not so fortunate because whenever they wanted to go to Krishna, their husbands were not very happy. And we discussed before how the gopis had married other people, but were actually all married to Krishna, right? Long story short, when it comes time for Lord Brahma to steal all the boys and calves, which we spoke about, Lord Brahma steals all the boys and calves. Krishna expands into all of the boys and calves. But it is at that time that there are, all of the cow herders of a similar or slightly older age were all now Krishnas because Lord Brahma had stolen them all. And it is at that time that all of the gopis of Vrindavan are encouraged to get married to all of the different gopas. And so they all actually only marry Krishna. And so by the arrangement of Purnamasi and Yoga Maya Devi, there are shadows of the gopis that interact with the husbands and the in-laws and all of these things. And the actual gopis are constantly running to try and find some way to meet Krishna. And Yogamaya has it so that these shadow gopis stay and do the housework, so that the coward people of Vrindavan don't get too upset with them. While really the gopis in their heart and souls, their essence, are running after Krishna any way possible. Another gopi said, "My dear friends, Krishna is so nicely dressed that he appears to be the impetus to various kinds of ceremonies held by the women folk." This is the part where Gokulotsavam, he is a festival for all of Gokula. Right? We heard in this verse that we recited earlier, he is the reason for all of the festivals. He is the impetus for all the festivals. Everyone sees Krishna and they think he's dressed so beautifully. There must be a festival. Let's create one. We saw that Krishna is so wonderful that when he was 3 months old and he turned over for the first time, everybody said, let's have a festival. We'll see during Chaturmas, Krishna is sleeping, but as he turns over, there's a special Ekadashi and a wonderful festival. They say, let us create a festival because Krishna has turned over in his sleep. So Krishna is the impetus for many ceremonies held by the women folk, because women love a good festival, even 5,000 years ago, right? We love a good festival, and so does Krishna. And so, Nrsinga Purana, so many of the Puranas state, if you are creating a festival for the temple, in a temple, making your home a temple, for the deity, when you create those festivals, it creates such pious merit that it secures your place in the kingdom of God. So how do we secure our places in the kingdom of God? It is very simple. Make a festival. Make a festival. Come online, live, and have a festival. Sing the glories of our Lord. Speak the glories of our Lord. Just encourage someone to love God and have a great day. Just encouraging somebody else to love God. So, one person is saying, why would I want Krishna to kiss me when him kissing Radharani feels so much better? Because Maha. Because Maha. And because Radharani is so merciful. It is stated within our Shastras that Srimati Radharani is so grateful to every single gopi and every single person who has arranged her meeting with Krishna, that she then takes them by the hand and arranges for them to have personal time with Krishna. So because Krishna loves one devotee, does not take away from his ability to reciprocate unlimitedly with every single other living entity. He is Akila Rasamrita Murti. So why would I want Krishna to kiss me? Because when kissing Radharani is so much better, because that actually gives Krishna pleasure. His pleasure is in reciprocating with unlimited amounts of devotees. And because Radharani's pleasure is in having Krishna reciprocate with other devotees. Radharani is so compassionate that she finds her joy in introducing other devotees to Krishna. And so Srila Prabhupada constantly prays, I will go to my Radharani and pray, please simply accept me. Please somehow introduce me to your Krishna. He says, we offer all of our articles of worship through the parampara, through our disciplic succession, through our tradition, from guru to guru to guru, so that they will give it to Radharani, and then Radharani will offer it to Krishna. Because Radharani's pleasure is in offering the worship of other devotees to her Krishna. Her pleasure is in compassion. And who am I to send away that compassionate mercy of Srimati Radharani? I could not fathom doing that. And so Krishna's pleasure and Radharani's pleasure is to experience their love and to experience that with every single living entity. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes and he says, take this holy name, take the nectar of Krishna's lips, take this nectar and give it to everyone you meet. This is Radha Krishna combined, right? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none different than Radha Krishna combined. And what does he want? What does he say? Give this nectar to everyone. Experience this nectar. Other than me, who is your friend? This is the medicine for all of your ailments of material existence. Fall in love with Krishna. Love Krishna. Embrace Krishna to your heart. Just as all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan are doing, moving or non-moving. I accept the lip touch of Krishna on the order of my spiritual master, on the order of my spiritual grandfather, Srila Prabhupada, on the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is my spiritual order. This is my duty, to accept Krishna's love. Even the wives of the denizens of heaven become attracted after hearing the transcendental sound of Krishna's flute. Although they are traveling in the air in their airplanes, enjoying the company of their husbands, on hearing the sound of Krishna's flute, they immediately become perturbed. Their hair is loosened and their tight dresses are slackened. This means that the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna extended to all corners of the universe. Also, it is significant that the gopis knew about the different kinds of airplanes flying in the sky. Another gopi said to her friends, "My dear friends, the cows are also charmed as soon as they hear the transcendental sound of the flute of Krishna. It sounds to them like the pouring of nectar, and they immediately spread their long ears just to catch the liquid nectar of the flute." And if anybody has seen the cows of India, it's one of my favorite features of them. They're so cute. They've got these long ears, and they always look like they've got lots of like eyeliner on, but they're so cute. As for the calves, they are seen with the nipples of their mothers pressed in their mouths, but they cannot suck the milk. They remain struck with devotion, and tears glide down their eyes of the little calves. Can you imagine little calves with tears of love, illustrating vividly how they are embracing Krishna heart to heart? That is my favorite line. Oh, let us become like these calves. May the calves of Vrindavan, who are so sweet, so playful, and so nurturing, and so eager for love, and eager for Krishna's love, may the calves of Vrindavan protect us all. May we all embrace Krishna heart to heart, following the example of the calves who can become like our gurus. These phenomena indicate that even the cows and calves in Vrindavan knew how to cry for Krishna and embrace him heart to heart. Actually, Krishna conscious affection can be culminated in shedding tears from the eyes. So if you find yourself crying, Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say, cry more, cry more. When we are crying for Krishna, this is the only best use of our tears. A younger gopi told her mother, "My dear mother, the birds who are all looking at Krishna playing on his flute are sitting very attentively on the branches and twigs of different trees. From their features, it appears that they have forgotten everything and are engaged only in hearing Krishna's flute. This proves that they are not ordinary birds. They are great sages and devotees, and just to hear Krishna's flute, they have appeared in Vrindavan forest as birds." So when we are in Vrindavan, or when we are thinking of Vrindavan, when we see all the parrots and birds, and when we hear the sounds of the parrots and birds, these are the sounds of the great sages who have heard the sounds of Krishna's flute. Great sages and scholars are interested in Vedic knowledge, but the essence of Vedic knowledge is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Again, 15:15, Vedescha sarve rahameva vedya. Through the knowledge of the Vedas, Krishna has to be understood. From the behavior of these birds, it appeared that they were great scholars in Vedic knowledge and that they took to Krishna's transcendental vibration and rejected all branches of Vedic knowledge. Even the river Jamuna, being desirous to embrace the lotus feet of Krishna after hearing the transcendental vibration of his flute, broke her fierce waves to flow very nicely with lotus flowers in her hands, just to present flowers to Mukunda with deep feeling. Mukunda is one who gives liberation, but once again, why in Vrindavan would Krishna be described as Mukunda? Those who do not care for liberation, they just want Krishna's love. Why would they describe him as Mukunda? Mukunda also means one whose smiling face is brilliantly white like kunda flowers, jasmine flowers. He is therefore known as Mukunda, one whose brilliantly effulgent smiling face is as beautiful as small budding jasmine flowers. This is Krishna. This is the Jamuna rushing to embrace Krishna. Similarly, we hear in the beautiful celebrated song Dule Dule Gaura Chand that Lord Chaitanya has come swaying and dancing finally into Vrindavan Dham, and Vrindavan Dham rejoices again, thinking our Krishna has returned, and the Jamuna has overflowed her banks just to wash the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, embracing them once again. My Krishna has returned. Can we ever think and hope to embrace the lotus feet of our Lord? This is the perfection of our lives. Let us print out pictures of Krishna and embrace them to our hearts. Let us walk around with the form of Krishna. I happen to have the lotus feet of Gaurnitai that sit constantly on my heart. Let us get these pendants. Let us embrace them to our hearts as the treasure of all that we have. This is all we have. This is what Lord Shiva is praying for. Let me behold the form of yours that is most dear to the devotees. For that form is the best of all things to be seen. The scorching heat of the autumn sunshine was sometimes intolerable, and therefore the clouds in the sky appeared in sympathy above Krishna and Balaram and their boyfriends while they engaged in blowing their flutes. The clouds served as a soothing umbrella over their heads just to make friendship with Krishna. The wanton Aborigine girls also became fully satisfied when they smeared their faces and breasts with the dust of Vrindavan, which was reddish from the touch of Krishna's lotus feet. Do we have faith that the dust of Vrindavan can fulfill all of our desires and fully satisfy us when we smear our bodies with it? The Aborigine girls had very full breasts, and they were also very lusty. But when their lovers felt their breasts, they were not satisfied. When they came out into the midst of the forest, they saw that while Krishna was walking, some of the leaves and creepers of Vrindavan turned reddish from the kumkum powder which fell from his lotus feet. His lotus feet were held by the Gopis on their breasts, which were also smeared with kumkum powder. But when Krishna traveled in the Vrindavan forest with Balaram and his boy friends, the reddish powder fell on the ground of the Vrindavan forest. So the lusty Aborigine girls, while looking toward Krishna playing his flute, saw the reddish kumkum on the ground and immediately took it and smeared it over their faces and breasts. In this way, they became fully satisfied, although they were not satisfied when their lovers touched their breasts. All material lusty desires can be immediately satisfied if one comes in contact with Krishna consciousness. We have the dust of Braj. Still, I've had friends who have lovingly given me as presents the dust of Braj, and it shimmers, it glitters, it sparkles. Are we taking advantage of these opportunities? Are we smearing our heads and our bodies with the dust of Braj? We are looking for love. Now, this is an example, Krishna can love even through the dust left by his footprints. Krishna can embrace us through the dust of Braj. Are we taking this dust of Braj, placing it to our heart and saying, "Oh, Krishna, I accept your embrace"? Are we sprinkling it over us every day? Somehow, we take it in the form of the dust of Braj, in the form of even the sacred tilak. Can we adorn ourselves with it and understand, Krishna, you are embracing me. You are placing your mercy over me. You are protecting me. Krishna is loving us through the dust of Braj, through the tilak. Another gopi began to praise the unique position of Govardhan Hill in this way. How fortunate is this Govardhan Hill, for it is enjoying the association of Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are accustomed to walk on it. Thus Govardhan is always in touch with the lotus feet of the Lord. And because Govardhan Hill is so obliged to Lord Krishna and Balaram, it is supplying different kinds of fruits, roots, and herbs, as well as very pleasing crystal water from its lakes in presentation to the Lord. The best presentation offered by Govardhan Hill, however, was newly grown grass for the cows and calves. Govardhan Hill knew how to please the Lord by pleasing his most beloved associates, the cows and the cowherd boys. If any of you are coming on this India pilgrimage with me at the end of September, we will go see Govardhan Hill. We will go see this great, great servitor of Shri Krishna. We will see where Krishna placed his feet. We will see the very footprint of Krishna. Please come with me. And I'll take lots of photos and I'll post them so that all of those who can come virtually will come virtually. Okay? I got you. Don't worry. I'm not leaving you behind. I'm taking you all with me as prayers in my heart, and I will be praying for you all while I am there in Vrindavan. Know that I will be offering unlimited prayers for all of you. Another gopi said that everything appeared wonderful when Krishna and Balaram traveled in the forest of Vrindavan, playing their flutes and making intimate friendship with all kinds of moving and non-moving living creatures. When Krishna and Balaram played on their transcendental flutes, the moving creatures became stunned and stopped their activities, and the non-moving living creatures like trees and plants began to shiver with ecstasy. Krishna and Balaram carried binding ropes on their shoulders and in their hands, just like ordinary cowherd boys. While milking the cows, the boys bound the hind legs with a small rope. This rope almost always hung from the shoulders of the boys, and it was not absent on the shoulders of Krishna and Balaram. In spite of their being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they played exactly like cowherd boys, and therefore everything became wonderful and attractive. One other thing that Krishna and Balaram carried that distinguished the cowherds from the shepherds, right? Those who were herding sheep and goats from those who were herding cows. Krishna and Balaram, in addition to the ropes, would carry a blanket. So Krishna would carry a blanket throughout the day. And the cowherds carried blankets as a symbol of their status. They are cowherds. Shepherds do not carry a blanket. And it is said that when Krishna would see a calf shivering in the cold, he would take his very own blanket and cover the calf with that blanket. And he would give it warmth from that blanket. And he would also give the calf a warm hug. So in order to warm up the calf, he would give him his blanket and an embrace. How fortunate are the calves and the cows of Vrindavan. Krishna is willing to give his own blanket to them. A blanket that he carries just for this purpose. A blanket that is dark. And when Sri Radha sees that dark blanket, all she can think of is Krishna. Sometimes he has left this blanket behind when he has met with Sri Radha. This blanket, how fortunate is the paraphernalia of Sri Krishna. May Sri Krishna's blanket which is an impetus for love, protect us all. While Krishna was engaged in tending the cows in the forest of Vrindavan or on Govardhan Hill, the gopis in the village were always absorbed in thinking of him and discussing his different pastimes. This is the perfect example of Krishna consciousness, to somehow or other remain always engrossed in thoughts of Krishna. The vivid example is always present in the behavior of the gopis. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya declared that no one can worship the Supreme Lord by any method which is better than the method of the gopis. The gopis were not born in very high Brahman or Kshatriya families. They were born in the families of Vaishyas, and not in big mercantile communities, but in the families of cowherd men. They were not very well educated, although they heard all sorts of knowledge from the Brahmanas, the authorities of Vedic knowledge. The gopis' only purpose was to remain always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 21st chapter of Krishna, the Gopis attracted by the flute. We can do the very same thing. Maybe we are not born into very high families. Maybe we do not have such high learning. Maybe we are not able to remember everything completely. Maybe we are not even able to remember Krishna's pastime so completely. That's okay. Actually, sometimes that's better. They say that Yoga Maya Devi covers the inhabitants of Vrindavan with forgetfulness, so that every day these pastimes that are occurring again and again feel ever fresh and ever new. And so, friends, if you think, I keep reading, but I'm not able to remember, this is a blessing. A Brijbasi blessing. So every time you read it, it will become fresh and new. So if you feel like you can't remember, don't feel bad. Just know I should read them again and again, because Krishna is having these pastimes again and again with me. And every time I read them, it's like reading them all over again. It's completely new. And even though this is one of my favorite chapters, still, it felt new. It felt like I'm reading this for the first time. It felt like I'm experiencing something new with Krishna. I'm experiencing something new. And so next week, we'll gather together and I will speak again about one of my most favorite things. We won't move on from this. We will delve into discussing the ropes of Shri Krishna, because it is one of my favorite things to discuss. And how those ropes are lovingly imbued with the pastimes of Krishna. How Krishna forms so many pastimes with these ropes. So we'll talk about Krishna's ropes next week, and what that means for all of us, and how looking at these ropes, we'll never look at them the same way ever again. My friend Leela Mandri knows. Anybody who's been with me for a while knows we never look at ropes the same way, isn't it? And so we'll never look at Krishna's blanket the same way. We'll never look at Krishna's walking stick the same way. Now we'll think of Krishna jumping over puddles, thinking of giving that blanket to a small calf and a hug. Maybe one day when Krishna sees us shivering in the cold of forgetfulness of him, he will cover us with his very own blanket and give us a hug to keep us warm. We can all go through the day thinking of Krishna's warm embrace. And if you are feeling hot during the day, still Krishna's warm embrace. Maybe Krishna's warm embrace is seeking us out even through the heat of the summer months. Thank you so much, friends, for being with me. It has been wonderful to share this time with all of you. We've had the wonderful Kirtana Vayendra Prabhu in the background. Shuparayendra Prabhu ki jai. Thank you. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Radhe Shyam ki jai. Shri Radha Govind Dev ki jai, Shri Gaur ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to all of you Vaishnavas who make all of these live streams possible, whether through Patreon, whether through your contributions through PayPal, whether through just tuning in on YouTube. It is because of you that every and all of these broadcasts are possible. I am so eager and looking forward to coming back with more pastimes next week. I get to spend my week now researching more things to know about ropes, because I know the things that I know, but now I kind of want to get some new things, so that we can fill up this hour sweetly with all of the loving rope pastimes of Sri Krishna. So some of them will know, some of them will be new, and I look forward to gathering together with you all. Virtual Vrindavandam ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Purushottam Mas ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Bolo Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Bolo Jai Jai Shri Radhe Govinda.
Jai Jai Shri Radhe.